Hey guys, so I have a blue name, and I know I'm mostly known for staff stories, and this video is kind of a staff story, but it's also a personal story at the same time. So some of you may know that back in January I resigned from Helper for about 2 weeks, and I did make a video about this. You don't really need to have watched that video to understand this one, but if you're just looking for some more context about where this video is coming from, then the link to that will be in the description. Basically, at the end of my returning video, I said that I had gone through a rough time in the past few weeks, but was feeling better. At the time that I said that, I wasn't completely convinced that I was actually okay, but I did feel like I was doing well enough to be a helper again. And I was mostly right. At the time I resigned, I was very angry, and that led me to behave kind of aggressively in party chat, and I wasn't really breaking the rules or anything, but some of the things I said in party chats and in private messages would have been pretty bad for a staff member to say. Honestly, I should have just taken a break from Minecraft then because I knew it wouldn't help me feel better, but I just didn't do that because playing Minecraft was a habit and I just didn't break that habit. So anyway, I was still going through a rough time. I'm not going to say that I was dealing with some kind of like unbearable suffering. I'm just saying that it's the type of thing that everyone has to go through sometimes. Basically, as the months went by, I felt kind of sad, but I was still active on Hypixel and still helping people and partying people, and I'd usually friend people if they asked me to. I was still mostly playing out of habit, and a lot of times having to answer questions in game was making me feel a bit drained. It still felt good to help people, but it was much more tiresome than it had been in the past, and I started to consider permanently resigning so that I could just log in and play games without having to talk to anyone. After thinking about it for about a month, I finally decided to tell my real life friends that I might be resigning. They asked me why, and I replied with this message. I have this obligation to log onto Hypixel, but I don't even want to log in. I feel like it's my duty as staff to always act professional and just be a beacon of positivity everywhere I go. I can't say what I really think about things. I can't even mention anything negative. I try to say yes to everyone who asks for stuff, but saying yes to party with one person basically means saying no to 10 other people, and that feels awful. Also, I'm not even being a good helper anymore. They expect helpers to go into lobbies and answer questions people ask. I don't do that because 95% of the questions are things I have to say no to. Staff are supposed to be active on the forums and look at forum conversations that people start. I don't go on the forums. My name doesn't show up on the Staff Online Now section because of a bug resulting from me resigning and coming back. That means no one really starts conversations with me anymore. I could have told them to fix it, but I chose not to. Some people respect me. They say, "Thank you so much for all the hard work you put in to make this server fun for everyone," or something like that. I feel horrible when I get those messages because I'm not the person they think I am. I don't really help the server, and at this point, I'm just a guy with a blue name. Wow, okay, so a lot of the things I said in this message are absolutely, completely false, and there's also a lot of exaggerations, and I even kind of knew that I was ignoring a lot of stuff when I wrote it, but honestly, I didn't even care because I just wanted to vent and I was mad, and sending that actually did make me feel a lot better because I'd gotten it out. A few days after sending that message, I reread it and realized how untrue it was. I'll actually go back to that message right now and explain exactly why. Okay, I have this obligation to log into Hypixel, but I don't even want to log in. Alright, so that's half true. I didn't really want to log in, but I never felt obligated. It wasn't my helper rank that made me want to log in, it was pretty much just habit, and I didn't really know what else to do besides playing Minecraft, but I definitely never felt obligated. I feel like it's my duty as staff to always act professional and just be a beacon of positivity everywhere I go. I can't say what I really think about things, I can't even mention anything negative. If I'm not in the mood to log in, I shouldn't log in the first place, and if I'm so upset that I feel the need to rant about things in public chat, then I really have no business logging in, and I can always just vent to someone else. I can just tell one of my close friends how I feel, or talk to another staff member, talk to the managers. There's places where I can vent things like that, and I don't need to vent that to the community because that's not what I should be doing as a helper. Now, I definitely remember at this point I was logging in while in a bad mood pretty often, So I think what I should have done is just taken another break, and that probably would have helped me. I try to say yes to everyone who asks for stuff, but saying yes to party with one person basically means saying no to 10 other people, and that feels awful. Okay, saying no to people. So I've known for a very long time that probably my biggest weakness as a staff member is that I don't like saying no to people. I just try to say yes to everything, and that makes me feel good because I make the person happy, but as a person monitoring and enforcing chat, I have to say no sometimes, just to enforce the rules. So I think my real problem that I'm talking about here was party invites, because I would just say yes to people even if I didn't really want to party with them. It makes me happy to invite people to parties, but sometimes I do just want to play by myself, or I just want to play with my friends, or I just want to play with staff. And I try really hard to invite people, but sometimes I just like can't party someone, and sometimes players just like don't understand that. Honestly, this could be the topic of an entire video, so I'm just going to move on to the next part of this message. Also, I'm not even being a good helper anymore. They expect helpers to go in lobbies and answer questions people ask. I don't do that because 95% of the questions are things I have to say no to. Now, I know I was in a bad mood when I wrote this part of the message because I said that 95% of the questions that people ask are things I have to say no to. Yeah, no, 95% is a very extreme exaggeration. Actually, that's just completely false. I don't know how many messages are things I need to say no to, but it is way lower than 95%. Also, I don't think that it was fair for me to call myself a bad helper because of that. At the time of writing this, I was active on the server, and I tried to party and friend most people, and I would help people out when they sent me private messages. Now, it is kind of bad that I never stayed in lobbies, and I did need to be in lobbies more because that's just part of being a helper. Staff are supposed to be active on the forums and look at forum conversations that people start. I don't go in the forums. My name doesn't show up on the Staff Online Now section because of a bug resulting from me resigning and coming back. That means no one really starts conversations with me anymore. I could have told them to fix it, but I chose not to. I wrote this in March, but even since then, I never told anyone else besides my friends about that bug because I really like that no one knew when I was on the forums. I guess this video is me publicly admitting that this bug exists. If anyone with the capability to fix it is watching this, I guess now you know. Also, this part of the message is another example of why I thought I was a bad helper, but again, I'm being pretty hard on myself. The forums are important, but in-game is definitely the most important place for staff to be, and I was still helping people in-game even if I didn't really go to lobbies. So I really don't think it's fair for me to say that I was a bad helper because of that. Obviously, I could improve, but that doesn't make me a bad helper. Alright, last part of the message. Some people respect me. They say, "Thank you so much for all the hard work you put in to make this server fun for everyone," or something like that. I feel horrible when I get those messages because I'm not the person they think I am. I don't really help the server, and at this point, I'm just a guy with a blue name. Alright, so this message was meant to be serious, but when I read it for the first time, I actually laughed because I'm pretty sure this is when I came up with the whole blue name thing, and that's my intro now, so it's kind of funny that, like, this is where that came from. But anyway, this part of the message is just me being dramatic. People were coming up to me and sending a simple thank you message, but since I was in a bad mood and kind of had low self-esteem, the messages made me feel guilty because I felt like I was not doing my job. I really don't think I was being that bad of a helper. I mean, I could improve, like I've said, but in this message I'm trying to say that these people who were sending me thank yous would actually tell me that I'm a bad person if they knew that I didn't go to the forums or lobbies, and that's just ridiculous. They wouldn't say that. They're just trying to show appreciation for what they see me doing. Now, that being said, I did know that I could do better, but I think my main mistake was even logging in while I felt bad to begin with. Alright, so conclusion, that message was mostly false, but it did help me vent, and even though that message makes it pretty clear that I want to resign from staff, I really didn't want to make a hasty decision and then end up regretting it, so I waited a bit, and after I was able to reread the message, I realized that resigning was definitely a bad idea, and it wouldn't make me feel better. I felt better for a while after sending that message, but despite explaining everything I was doing wrong as a helper in the message, I didn't really improve. I still stayed off the forums, and I didn't go to lobbies, and I was still logging in out of habit, and I was still logging in when I didn't want to log in. It wasn't Hypixel that was making me feel that way, it was mostly real life issues, but when I logged into Hypixel while already feeling sad to begin with, I would feel like I wasn't doing my job, and that would make me feel worse. So instead of trying to improve and do better at my job, I just internally yelled at myself for not being good enough, and that stopped me from ever improving. Pretty soon, I was back to seriously considering a permanent resignation from Helper. Again, I was upset because of real life issues, but since I couldn't control the real life issues, I decided to blame everything on my Helper rank, since I could control that. Somehow, I tricked myself into thinking that if I resigned from Helper, it would fix all my other problems. I also knew that the last time I had decided to resign, I had ended up deciding not to later. So this time, I needed to be more serious. A resigning message sent to only my friends on Skype wasn't going to be good enough this time. I needed a video on my channel explaining exactly how I felt and why I had to resign. So that's what I ended up doing. When I finished the video, I sent a message to the staff managers saying, "Hey, I'm really sorry about this, but I need to resign from Helper." But when they didn't reply right away, I decided that since I would probably have my helper rank removed soon, I wanted to log into Hypixel and just try to be a helper for one last time. The idea was that I would log in and I would just be miserable, and that it would make me more sure of my decision to resign. Actually, when I logged in, I was feeling much better because the video had let me vent. A lot of people started asking me to party, so I partied all of them. A lot of people asked for friend requests, so I friended all of them, and I ended up enabling my friend requests. I had blamed the Hypixel community for why I was feeling bad, but people's reactions to me friending them and partying them were starting to make me feel even better. I actually hadn't felt this happy in a while, but I was still determined to resign anyway. After about an hour of hosting a party with a bunch of players, I received a party invite from a moderator, and I was really surprised because I hadn't talked to any staff members in at least 2 months, and I hadn't been in a staff party in a really long time. I was kind of expecting it to be a large staff party that everyone was being invited to, but there were actually only 3 people. The mod who invited me was Mistborn Arrow, and the party consisted of him and 2 other helpers. I still have no idea why Mistborn Arrow invited me to this party. There were a lot of other staff members online that he could have invited, but he invited me for some reason. But anyway, they were on the Hypixel TeamSpeak, so I decided to join it and talk to them. A lot of staff members were also on TeamSpeak that day, and some of them joined our channel, and I ended up talking to some staff members I hadn't talked to in a really long time, and I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed talking to other staff members. Pretty soon, I decided that me resigning from staff was definitely a bad idea. I hadn't told anyone in that party that I was this close to resigning, but at some point, I just silently switched tabs, and I went back to the message I had sent to the manager saying that I wanted to resign, and I deleted the message. I was hoping that they hadn't read the message and that they wouldn't notice anything, but the next day they actually replied again. They basically said, "Hey, I saw that you wanted to resign. Are you sure that's what you want to do?" And then they went on and said that they wanted to talk about it before I actually made the decision. So I replied saying that I had changed my mind and I didn't want to resign anymore, so that's why I deleted the message. So just to put this into perspective, I made my resigning video on May 6th, and at this time I had about 130 subscribers. And it's kind of scary to imagine what would have happened if I had actually resigned, because my YouTube channel probably would have died, and I never would have made all the videos that made my channel blow up at the beginning of June. I'd really like to think that I would have still decided not to resign no matter what, but I really don't know for sure, and maybe if Mistborn Arrow hadn't invited me to that party, I would have actually resigned. Anyway, I never wanted to resign again after that, and I was able to improve as a helper by becoming more active in lobbies and on the forums, and it was never really a big deal ever again. It's been totally fine just going to lobbies. I've enjoyed doing it. I receive forum conversations all the time. I try to reply to all of them. The video I made on May 6th was never uploaded, but it's still a project in my editing software, and I actually took some of the pictures from it and used them in my later videos, including top 5 worst situations. I haven't watched that video since I made it, so I'm not entirely sure what I actually said, but I know I kind of say some intense things, kind of some heavy things, and I definitely don't want to upload that video with no context because people might misinterpret that. So what I'm going to have to do is make a reaction type of thing. So I think sometime in the next few days I'll just go back to that video and I'll react to it. And I might have to edit out some parts, but I just really want to show you guys this video because I feel like it would complete this story. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget, follow your dreams.